So, welcome everybody to the BiblioCore Searching and Readers Advisory. So, today we will have a brief introduction of BiblioCore, and we will look at ways in which we can search. We'll also look at the faceted search, the bib page, and the format chooser. And we'll look at some of the other parts of using BiblioCore for Readers Advisory, such as staff lists, community contribution, shelves, flagging content, and my settings. And so some of those, like the community contribution, shelves, my settings, flagging content, are both for you to use within your library, but also for your patrons to use. And so this will be helpful for them to know how to use this tool as well. So BiblioCore is a web-based discovery layer that's replacing the pack. And right now we have, I'd say we're getting close to about half of our libraries are going live with BiblioCore. And we have it live for our CCS library instance as a whole. What this does is it's providing an interactive, mobile-friendly experience for your library patrons. It comes with an enhanced discovery, so it's grouping related formats together to make your searching easier. It has a community engagement component, which is allowing patrons to rate items, write reviews, share reading lists, kind of like a Goodreads or another place where you would want to share that information out. It has some integrated borrowing, so you can place holds, manage accounts, borrow digital content, as well as some personalized recommendations. So there'll be the read-alikes or staff curated recommendation lists. And so I just want to pause for a minute to sort of recognize too that there are some customizations that can be made to the library's BiblioCore site. And depending on your user permissions, you may or may not have the permissions to make some adjustments. And so what I've highlighted here on the screen that you can see is the Explore feature for CCS. We have the classic catalog linked. We have our member libraries linked. And then under Explore, we have just four things. So the recent activity, the new titles, awards, and the bestsellers. Libraries can choose to add additional content on that bar at the top, as well as under Explore, with the understanding that towards the end of the year, BiblioCore is going to be making updates to this front page functionality, and we're hoping to get that out to you guys as soon as we learn more about that as well. So if your site looks a little different than ours, just know it's probably been a decision made based on how you want the site to present to your patrons. Okay, so again, here's our Explore content. So depending on how the library is set up your Explore content, your patrons can find new or on order lists. They can find their award winners, the best sellers, the staff picks, and there's something called world languages. So what these are ways for your patron to engage further with the content. Um, for example, the award winners are actually lists, and you can see I have them highlighted over on the right-hand side of the screen here. Your award winners are actually lists that are updated by library subscribing to BiblioCore. So Rachel and I updated the four lists that we commonly create record sets for the awards winners, like the Monarch Awards and the Bluestem Awards. Your library has the option to choose which awards they want to show, and these lists are updated pretty regularly, either by us at CCS, or you can also do the same. They have a form that you can submit through BiblioCore where you can update awards lists too. And what's nice with these is that then once you are in the awards list, you will be able to search by that award as well as broken down by the individual years. So you really get some good information there. Um, we do not have a way to use our existing record sets that we were using in the pack. So record sets that currently live in Leap or Polaris are no longer going to translate into an OPAC. So the patrons will not see that in BiblioCore. So we have directions on how to convert that into a list. And since your award winners are already listed together, what you can do is open up one of those lists, and then it's very easy to combine those into a staff-picked list that you'll be able to highlight and show your patrons. So a little bit different than how we're used to seeing the catalog for our patrons, but certainly can be really valuable way for them to search. Okay. So BiblioCore is defaulting always to start with a keyword search. And you can see under the dropdown that you can also search by title, author, subject, series, tag list, um, and user and broaden keyword. So most of those are pretty common. The title, author, subject, series, we'll see that the tag and the list and the user are based on users' interactions within the OPAG. And so they're either going to be looking for a list by another patron or by a staff person, or they'll be looking for a tag or a user that's also coming either from a patron or another staff person. Um, the broaden keyword is a search option that kind of relaxes the rules of multi-word searches to help you find more results when you have a query that is too specific. So if you choose the broaden keyword option, the catalog changes the rules just a little bit. So any matching word, it's going to search for items that contain any of the words you typed when you go to use a broaden search. As well as prioritizing results, it's going to rank the items with the most matching words at the top of your results list. So the keyword search is not searching everywhere. It's just searching certain parts of the record. This broadened keyword is going to really search everything and look for anything that contains the words that you typed. So then there is a predictive search and a did you mean. So within the catalog, it's going to provide you when you start to type into the search bar 5 possibilities of what you're trying to search. So it's going to use circulation numbers and the logic to predict for what you're searching for. And results are unique based on the information that's in the ILS. So an instance of searching, if you are searching, say, Indian Trails catalog, the instance that you search for their library might look a little bit different for Chicago Public for sure, because we have we have different collections. But so this search is responding to the catalog, it's responding to the information based in the ILS in order to get you those correct results. It is going to also offer some spelling for titles and names, like a did you mean misspell? So for example, I was searching for Wicked in this search. I started with WIC. It filled in Wicked for me. I did find that even if I searched Wicked with a incorrect spelling, like WICED, it was still returning a Wicked as a result for me. And then also you can see like in the keyword search again, if I searched for Hunger Games, but I missed the U, then it's going to tell me there's nothing found for that, but did I mean, and give me some additional information on how to find what I was looking for. Okay, so exact matches for stop words. So stop words are the 50 most common words in the English language. I do have them linked at the bottom of the page. So when I send out this PowerPoint, if you'd like to see what the stop words are, but what they're doing with stop words is when patrons are looking for items that use an exact stop word, they're most likely looking for that word as a title, not just part of a title. So Stephen King's It comes up first when you search the word it. So it's not just searching it as part of a title, it is looking for it as an exact title. And that's really just for those stop words. It doesn't work every time for every word, but in general, if you have a common word used as a title, it will help to search and find that title for you as the stop word. And then they've got a keyword search for the author. One thing that I really like is that you can do a keyword search you can do an author search in the keyword field. So if you do a first name, last name, like I did for Miyazaki, you can see here that the results came back not with his name in the title, but then his name listed as the creator and then the titles of his films there. So you can do that keyword search just as an author and not have to whittle it down. It doesn't always work for like names maybe that are super common. You want to go to that author search and do a last name, first name, but this is a good way to start and pretty basic. Patrons are used to putting in the name of an author and seeing some results, so it comes up right away. And then there is an exact match feature, which is really nice. So once you search, you type your search terms and you click search, the database prioritizes exact matches. So you can see I have the Dan Brown title of Origin. I typed in Origin as my search word. It gave me Origin first. And then I actually ended up with um, Origins further down the list from Neil deGrasse Tyson's Origins book. So it is going to prioritize the way that you typed something and the words that you use in order to get you those results. So there is a smart search. So when you're searching BiblioCore for a format such as movies, it is going to return a list of movies similar to other common searching on the internet. So you can see with that smart search, when I put in movies, it's automatically giving me in the formats the different types of movies and TV. So we can see DVDs, we can see Blu-rays. And this really works for just about any type, any format. What you can do is you can put in just as a keyword that particular type or format, and it will return the correct results. And then similar to, other searches that you can do either online or in different databases or catalogs, if you're doing the format and the keyword together, you're going to get closer to a result that you want. So maybe I wanted to look for the DVD of Incredible Hulk, just putting in DVD Incredible Hulk right away brought me back results that I was looking for. Um, so then there's some audience terms. Our audience terms are using more of intuitive language. So reading through BiblioCore's documentation and attending some of their trainings, one of the things that they're really stressing with this tool is that it is supposed to be set up with a little more common language that patrons are used to using when they're searching online. So where we might think juvenile fiction, so I might think of juvenile fiction because my cataloging brain turns on. Our patrons might be looking for kids fiction. So you can see here using that common kids fiction is returning back a lot of items. You can search juvenile fiction. It's just the way that the database is set up is it's set up to kind of drill it down into more common language. So if you see your patrons using kids fiction, that is going to be one way that they can return those results, and it will work. Okay, so for this screen, what I'm showing you is there's just a couple other things when you start to get into your searches. You have the ability to save your search. So you can see that's over here on the right-hand side. So if you have something that you know, like every week, I'm going to do a story time about butterflies for the next 2 months. I want everything about butterflies. So when I go to search, I can search something fresh. And so I might save that search. As long as I'm signed into my account, I'll save the search and then I can push the saved searches in my account and it'll bring me back to this search. There's also a broaden your search, and that's going to provide notes and tables of contents to make it a little bit easier for you to understand what you're seeing in front of you. The sort by can be changed. So I've got that highlighted in yellow here. So if you wanted to do a sort by date, title, author, or rating, you could do that. And then you also have a view here. So you can print your results, or you can change the way. Right now they're stacked as cards. You might want to see them as a different view. So you can change that here. It is also an advanced search. The advanced search is One that I'll be really honest, I haven't used a lot because I start with that keyword search and I am pretty successful finding what I need to find. But if you need to do this advanced search, there are some different components to it. So you can see that there's some tips up in the corner here. This is going to give you some ideas about how you could build a search if you wanted to build a really advanced search. They also have a frequently asked questions. So if you need more information, these are more for your patrons, I would say, but they can certainly be helpful in explaining to patrons why you're searching the way you're searching. There is an include all, but do not include. So we're starting to build a Boolean search with the and or not. And you can add a different fields, additional fields as well if you wanted to get deeper in your search. You can also do some limiting by searches. So you could limit by language, availability, audience, location, collection, and even in the reading lexile down at the bottom. And there's additional advanced searches under this. This is just the sort of beginning of those advanced searches. There's a lot of ways that you can really narrow down information in the database. Now we have a group search. When you search BiblioCore, the database groups formats by title. So the formats are grouped together, and the items that are available to borrow are listed first. So those will float to the top. It is going to provide those different formats in order from available to less available. And you're going to be able to access the title record for an individual format by clicking on the format type. And so this is just another example, and I apologize, it might be a little blurry, but this is another Tolkien title, and you can see that there's ebooks, there's audiobooks, there's physical copies of books, and we will dig more into this in a minute, but you can see just even from this screen, if I wanted to place a hold, check out an item, or save it for later, I can do that without leaving this screen and going into the bib record. A really nice, intuitive, faceted search. So that's along the right side of your screen. It's offering a quick way to drill down within the database. And what's really nice is that for a lot of patrons, especially if you're doing like online shopping and searching, this sort of setup, being able to do that faceted search on the side is pretty common. So they can start with something simple like children's books about dogs, children's books, dogs, and then they can start kind of narrowing through. Maybe they want an audiobook, or maybe they want something as a CD that they can listen to. So there's lots of ways that you can use this. Another nice thing that they have in the faceted search, these are just a few of them, is there's tags. So users can tag items, patrons, and staff members. But the one thing that we'll talk about a little bit is that tagging is only going to happen if the items have been put on a shelf. So the tags can be really helpful, especially if you have some specific tags you want to use for your library. But there's a couple steps you need to take in order to make sure those tags stick. And then this is a big screen. I apologize for all the information in one place, but some things to consider. So if you add the word new to your search bar as a keyword search, you're going to get items that were added up to 180 days prior. Sorry, I'll say that again. If you search new as a keyword search, you'll find items that were added up to 180 days. Typing all, which is the example I have here in this screen right here, is literally going to return everything in the catalog. What's nice about this is that if you really want to see the variation of your collection and understand sort of how this collection is being filtered and by format, you can see I could click on downloadable graphic novel or book plus DVD, and then that's going to take me to all of the items that have that filter attached to it. So it's just an interesting way to look at the collection and see everything. Um, and so really it's recommended to try using like combinations of audience terms and keywords and format types to get the best results, or do that and use the facets. Well, actually, I'm going to go back into BiblioCore really quickly. So I'll just switch my screen. So now you should be seeing my BiblioCore screen. And I just wanted to show you a couple of these features now that we've talked a little bit about how this catalog is working. So I went ahead, I am logged in as myself, and I have crash as a keyword. I like using this one because it returns a lot of different results. And then again, you should see almost all of the catalogs somewhere should have a click here to return to your classic catalog. So if you feel like your patron wants to get back to that catalog, they can. But when I search for crash right away, that stacking the different types of formats together, you can see right here. I have a DVD that's both widescreen and a Blu-ray, full screen, and then I have my facets over on the side so I can look into these different facets. I didn't specify the format I wanted. So again, my keyword was crash. The movie Crash came up first, and then it's going to go by availability and also popularity. So it looks at both, like the things that are really moving in your collection are going to filter to the top. The things that are available are going to filter to the top. So now we have a kids book crash. We have another movie crash. Then we start getting into some books. There's the Dave Matthews CD, additional books. So you can see with that one title, it is able to determine the different types of materials. It's able to determine the different genres and authors and pull it all together. But since I didn't tell it I wanted the DVD or the film version of Crash, it started with what's most common in our catalog, and then it will go from there. Like some of the things that we talked about already, you could see again, like I said, there's the ways to place a hold directly here, also to save for later. And when I narrow it down or I open it up to see what else is there, I have the option to save it for in progress, save it for completed. So you've got some different ways that you can use this tool. But really for patrons for starting, it's great for them to just start with a couple words, or you could do a word and a format and see if that will get you some results that you're interested in. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. We're on our group search. Talked about facets. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the bid page. So once we find something that we're interested in looking at, they're going to click on the title. That's going to take you to the bid page. That bid page or that title page is giving you information from the MARC record, and we've mapped some information directly from MARC to help with identifying the items better. So you can see right away, I found another Tolkien book, and it's The Return of the King. I get my title right up there along with the ability to rate. So if I would like to rate this book, I could click the stars and give it a rating. I also have a little bit of information about what this book is about, as well as availability. And then if I'm down in the About section, there's going to be some more full details, which we'll look at in just a minute. And there's also this from the community. And from the community is how you can see what other people are saying about this item, whether they like it. Um, so there's another great sort of community focused part of this tool. And then there's the format chooser. So I clicked that really fast and I want to go back. So you can see that in this one, I have the book. It is available. It says place a hold. In the next one, when I choose a different format chooser, again, there's my book and it says place a hold. But if I change it to an ebook, now it says check it out and I can go directly to Libby's. Hoopla, and some other e-materials are currently being integrated into the database. So your patrons will be able to just say, click on something and say, I don't want a book, I want an ebook. They can click and they'll be able to see that right away. And then you can see these are just some of the formats. So availability by format. So it's going to tell you, do you want to place a hold? It lets you click on like this first one, the availability by location. So you can click on that and it'll show you all the locations. You can place a hold or save it for later. And then it's telling you, if it's by a Libby book, you can check it out. online resource from Hoopla. You could click that link, it'll take you over to Hoopla. And then if it's in use somewhere, then they're also going to give you availability by location. So the more information that we can get from our or about these titles, the better for the patrons. So the About section is going to tell you the author, it links to other titles that they've written, and that you're going to get from clicking those full details. The opinions links to lists and blogs and critical reviews and reviews from the community. So we're pulling in reviews like Novelist, but also the community is going to be able to provide reviews as well. So you can see in this, what do you think of this title? So you can provide reviews and ratings. So this is going to display reviews and ratings across all of BiblioCommons. So you'll see your patrons, you can see yourself, but you'll also see other libraries, other patrons also providing content. One thing that we'll talk about a little bit more is there's a couple other social aspects. So there's a like, but there's also a flag. And the flag is going to give you the way to flag any comments that might be inappropriate. If you would like to have those removed, then once you flag them, BiblioCommons will go in and look at those. So in that full details, this is sort of an illustration to show there's just a lot of information. So when I click on full details, I'm going to get the details of the item, audience and series, the subject and the genre, which they can also click into, related notes and other information. So you get both the full record, and if you really want to dig down a little bit deeper, at the very bottom of the full details is the original record, and that original record is going to take you to the MARC record. So you can also look at that as well. More from the community. This one's pretty interesting. So it's towards the middle to bottom of the screen when we're looking at a bib record. And the more from the community is contributions, their opinions. We've got community lists here. Above this, there's also, or below, I can't remember, there's also highlighted staff lists. And then within community contributions, you can see you can provide quotes and summaries. You can put videos and suitability ratings in here as well. So I thought this is kind of a neat idea. Um, I was using It Ends With Us because there's a lot of comments on that title right now. But this library decided, the FVRL library has their own little podcast, and they decided to put a little review in a podcast. It's pretty cute. But so you can actually like add videos, you could put trailers to videos, you could put, comments from authors, lots of different information. And then the suitability is the rating. So from the community, what the rating could be for that particular title. There's the staff lists featuring the title. So these are staff lists that have been created by your library. There can be additional lists from other libraries, but the lists from our libraries are prioritized when your patron is looking in the catalog. So what this is going to do is, again, I think this was from It Ends With Us. So these are the staff lists that also included that title to help patrons sort of find read-alikes or information titles that they're interested in, that are similar to this one. And then there's an option to explore further. So there's the community tags. So these are tags that you could place on these items. These are tags your patrons can place on items. And there's also, like I said, an integration with Novelist, so that you can read additional reviews from Novelist as well. So before we start creating lists, I just want to go back into our bib record for Crash that we were looking at. So again, you can see this had a couple different formats, the ability to place the hold. Here's our about summary, with those contributors. They're all linked, which is really helpful because then you can get back to a title by this author or this contributor. You can see that when I click the full details, then I get more information, again, with all of my contributors, subject genres, and also regular genres, notes, identifiers, and then again, there's that original record that shows you the MARC record. But then when I come down here a little bit further, here's the from the community. So what did you think about this title? When you click in here, you do need to log in. I think I was logged out. And then I come down here, I can actually type right in here and say, I really liked this, or this was surprisingly not my favorite. And I can also rate the title, and then I can post my comment. When that comment's posted again, you can like it or you can flag it. Um, they try really hard within BiblioCommons to make sure that there's no spoilers, there's nothing offensive. But if you do come across something, feel free to flag it and they will look at it. There's also the community tags. So this is a really interesting one because one thing that some libraries are exploring is using their own sort of individually created tags to help patrons identify things. So maybe it's a book club book. So you could say Glenview Book Club book and put that as a community tag. And that could help your patrons also know and look for things because then they could search for that tag and be able to find those items. And then there's some community lists, again, the questions, summaries, the videos, and the suitability. So all of that information is in here. For some reason, this one is not showing me what I wanted to also show you. So I'm going to pull up this other title. So again, when I search, it ends with us. You get all of the different options. If I click in here, then there's some more information, and that's what I wanted to look for. So there's the explore further with those recommended titles, but there's also some you may likes and the staff list featuring the titles. So again, all of these are right here. And when you click view all lists, these lists are created either by staff at libraries or they can be created by patrons. And so that is kind of the difference. Your staff lists are going to be created by those staff members that have the ability to make the official staff lists. And those are going to be library staff members who have reader's advisory permissions. If you're not sure if you have the reader's advisory permissions, you can always put in a ticket and we can check your permissions. But that just means that your list will show up in the staff lists. There's also community lists, and these lists are created by your patrons or any staff member who wants to create a list but maybe doesn't have the reader's advisory permissions. So you have a couple different ways to create these lists. So I'm going to go back to my presentation, and what you can see is once I am logged in, I'll go back one more time under admin. It's a kind of small little drop down. You can see all the staff lists, or if I'm in my user, I can go down to lists. And then this is where, once I'm in the list, I'll be able to start the process of creating a new list. So then we're going to go back again and we'll look at the different types of lists. So once you get into your list, if you have the permissions for Reader's Advisory, then you'll be able to see the libadmin list, as well as an if you liked list and the guides and recommendations. So again, anybody with an active logged in library card can create public or private lists. So that includes patrons and staff. Those special staff created staff lists are reserved for library members who have the reader's advisory permissions. A list is just a collection of titles that are related to specific topic or an idea of your choosing. So you might do knitting books for beginners or the 10 best movies about baseball. And they can be shared, or you can also decide who to share those lists with when you publish it. So to create a new list, again, you're going to log in. And then on your account menu, you're going to go down to list. And then this screen is going to open up and it's going to ask you to make a decision on what kind of list that you want to make. So what you'll do is you'll choose a list if you want to do a guides and recommendations or an if you liked, or you could do a page content for libadmin. You would give it a title and description, and then you would start to add some information to this list. So if I choose to do a guides and recommendations list, you can see it'll tell me who it's by, I choose my type. You have lots of different options here when you choose, or I can do an if you liked. So the guides and recommendations lists are going to be either like genre guide, topic guide, if you wanted to do a personal recommendation list. And then the if you liked list is going to start with a title, and then you're going to build out that list from there. So if I enjoyed the movie version of The Hunger Games, is there something similar? I like cozy mysteries. I really liked the book Count My Lies. So then I would also recommend additional items to go on this list. And then there's also the libadmin page content. So again, the library staff with the Reader's Advisory permissions can create staff featured lists. Patrons do not have the ability to create these lists, and these are the lists that are going to show up in the carousel on the homepage and also the recommended additional reading carousels that are found in the bib page. So your new titles page content is for newly acquired titles. Your language page content can make lists in for different linguistic communities. Staff picks are this, curated list by your staff. They do have also a teacher picks page. I believe that's probably used more for like school settings, but if you have a relationship with your schools and you want to ask your teachers to create some lists or send some content over, then you could also have some sort of like, from the teachers of my town, and then you could have a teacher pick list as well. So to create a list, it's pretty simple. You choose the list that you want to do. So if I wanted to do a new title list page, I would give it a title and a description. There is a rule that you have to add at least 4 titles to your list before it gets published and shared. And to add a title, it's just as simple as clicking add to the list. I do find that it's kind of specific with your spelling, so it doesn't have some of those same functionalities that the search bar for the patrons has. So if you are searching for something and it doesn't end up showing up, check your spelling. It might be that it's just a character off and you need to add that. So you can see I'm doing my summer cozy mysteries list. And so I'm going to start with some books that I know would be good. I would go ahead and check the catalog. This is any item that is currently in the catalog. So even if you don't own this item, if you decided you wanted to put it on a list, if it's in the catalog, it will populate. And then from there, when I choose that, I will just go ahead and click add. And then when I click add, it'll start populating my list. The little cards up in the corner are the visuals of your list, and that will populate up to 10 items. You can put a lot of items on the list, or you can put a little items on the list. 10 is a nice sort of set because it populates that image nicely. And then it's pretty easy for patrons to scroll through, but you could obviously do more. You can also, you'll notice it says a web URL. So if you had an events calendar, you had, maybe a read aloud from an author you wanted to include in this, or something that you did at your library that you wanted to include, you can also include a web URL. So you can put any URL in here and it'll also populate into the list. So here's some interesting options for building these lists. And then again, to create that list, I put some titles in here. I've got my directorial debuts. My cards are all filled up. They look very nice. For my list settings, you've got some options. Do I want to add my new items to the top if I'm going to continue to build this list? I can make this a ranked list if I have my favorite to my least favorite. You can scope this list. So is it for your library? Is it for all of CCS libraries? Is it for all of BiblioCore? You can choose that from the dropdown, and then you also can choose a language. Then once you're ready, you do have to hit publish. This is saving automatically. It's nice. It really does save like title by title, I found, but until I publish it, it does not show up. And then once it's shown up, I just highlighted a couple lists I found. You'll see that they'll start to show in the carousel, your recent staff list, tells you who created it, what kind of recommendation it is, and then you'd click on it and that would take you to your list. Okay, I'm gonna pause for just a minute and ask if there's any questions about shelves. That was very fast, and I will cover another more in-depth coverage of shelves in the next webinar I do. I'm sorry, lists. I apologize. Now I'm going to move to shelves. So shelves are a way for your patrons and staff to track and share what they're reading, they're watching, or they're listening to. You can see over under my username on the right-hand side, I have a 4 later shelf, a completed shelf, and an in progress shelf. So anybody can use this tool, add content, adjust privacy settings, add tags that are only viewable. And again, you can do the 4 later, the in process, or the completed. And you can choose if you want it to be public or if you want it to be private. So it's public by default. So if you have a user or patron that is creating a lot of lists and they're like, I don't want people to see these, you'll have to show them how to walk through and make that not public, which I'll show you in just a moment. So shelves, you have your own shelves. I have a screenshot of mine here. Right now, my shelves are set at um, my private items, and you can see I can add additional titles to my list. I can see my completed, in progress, or for later. And then the same sort of faceted searches that you can use if you wanted to narrow through your list. You can also see the tags. So there's a couple of things I wanted to pause here with shelves. You need to create a shelf in order to tag an item. So if you wanted to tag a lot of materials, maybe you have kits for children and you wanted to say children's kits with books as a tag, then you need to create a shelf with all of those items, and then you will be able to tag those items. So that is kind of one thing that's a little bit different than some other ways that maybe we've looked into using this tool. But for the tagging, we found that that's one of the things you need to do is you need to create some shelves. You also are going to use this to help, you could use this to help you create lists if you wanted to. And so it can be just a really like universal tool for you and your patrons to keep track of items and to keep track of like sort of the community level information about these items. Talked a little bit about flagging content. Again, BiblioCore does not want any content on their tool that is a spoiler or that's not appropriate. So you can go in and tag or flag content. I would maybe feel like flagging this content just because I feel like it's a little much, but that would be up to BiblioCore to decide if the content stayed or not. And then my profile. So this is where you can get specific about your stuff, but you can also help your readers and your patrons understand how to interact with this tool a little bit better. So within my profile, you can give some about and some interests if you want. This is where they can see their shelves and their list, their activity. They can also see their community credits. The community credits are just so that you can run a community credit report if you have the permissions, how much interaction you're getting from your patrons. So I have 4 credits because I've tagged 4 items. But then you can also see if I'm following anyone or anyone's following me, as well as there's any alerts that are coming out of the system for me. And then my settings. So your patrons might be asking you about their settings. The My Settings is listed under the drop-down menu where their name is, and they can come in and get their email address information, username, and password information. All of this information is here for them. They can display things like barcode, name, and date of birth. They can't change those. Those need to change in well, depending. They need the barcode, for example, would change in the ILS, the name, we might be able to change the ILS, but you might also be able to change it in BiblioCore, but just not in this screen. And then you have account information like their email address, username and password, their searches, their holds and pickups, and their display language. And before I go to questions, I just wanted to go really quickly back into my account so that you can see. So when you're working with a patron, if they happen to be logged in and they're asking questions, this My Account right here is the best way to start. You can see that's where they're going to log out, but they can also go to the dashboard, and their dashboard is going to give them some information. So you can see some things that I have checked out. I don't have much going on in here right now, some recent activity. This is also where you and your patrons can create your shelves, create a list, and also make changes to your settings. So I'm going to go back and see if there are any questions. And before we go into questions, I've highlighted all of the documentation that we currently have on our website. So you can come in here and check if you want more in-depth directions on like how to create a list in BiblioCore. That's here for you. And along with additional documentation that we're updating as we go. So I want to thank you so much for attending.